In 2005, I was hired as a teacher and coach here at Moapa Valley High School. And as I entered the Gary Batchelor Gymnasium for the first pep assembly of the year, I was amazed by all of the state championship banners that were hanging on the walls. But there was one set of banners that intrigued me the most. The 1966, the 1967, and the 1968 football state championship banners. Tonight we're going to take a stroll down memory lane as we hear from the men that began one of the most dominant 11-man football programs in Nevada history. The 1966 Nevada State 1A football champions. Here is their story.
Good evening, Pirate fans, and welcome to Friday Night Pirate Lights. Tonight we are featuring the 1966 State A champions who went north and played Yerington High School.
Coach Bushman was what you'd call old school. He had done some coaching in Utah. In fact, he coached at, I think, the old BYU High at one time. He came to Moapa Valley, he left, and then he came back. I can't tell you all the years, but he came here and he was a small guy, fiery, but he loved football. He loved coaching, but he loved football especially. And he wanted to get 11-man football going in the Valley. He really wanted to do that.
I'm Roger Bushman. My father was Grant Bushman that coached there in Moapa Valley for many years. I was 8 years old and in third grade when we moved to Moapa Valley. He coached football and basketball and baseball, everything. And then gradually, as the school grew and as programs got better, he specialized in football and coached the JV basketball. But back then, the coaches really supported each other, and usually, like Dad was assistant in basketball to Gary Batchelor, and Gary was assistant to Dad in football.
It's a little bit more about the coaching. I think Coach Bushman's record going into that state game was 64, 14-1, and so he had been a winning coach. He was a good coach. And Coach Batchelor had just come our freshman year. He had come in to be the head basketball coach, and he was Coach Bushman's assistant and did a lot. And then Larry Adams, he worked with us when we were younger kids. He was always take the freshmen and sophomores.
Staff was pretty solid. The head coach was Grant Bushman, who had been there for years and had a pretty successful program, except for 11-man championships. And then we had Coach Gary Batchelor, who was pretty new at that time. He'd been there 2 or 3 years when I was a junior. And then we had Coach Larry Adams. Coach Adams was I remember him as my drills coach, instructor on, crossbody blocks and tackling drills. I mean, that was freshman and sophomore. That's all we did. That's all I did because I was so small. And I didn't get to play with the big boys very much. So Larry was a invaluable asset to the coaching staff. And those three men, I look back on them and they just kept us going. It was great to play for all three of them.
I first met him when I was a student at BYU, and he had found out that I was going to take a job here at Moapa. So he came up to summer school. He was up in Provo for some reason, and we had a meeting up in the old field house. And he talked about Moapa Valley and the football team, and I was going to come, and he said, I'd like to do the offense, and you can do the defense, and the two of us will get together and we'll get the Pirates going. So I showed up in the fall of 1964, And he had been here for a number of years. I don't know exactly how many. I should have done some research. But anyway, so away we went, and we became the two dynamic duo of the football team starting those years.
My name's Dennis Humes, and I played defensive back for the Pirates, 1966 football team and the 67 football team. And I've been asked to talk a little bit about the 66 state championship that we won.
Jesus Tellis here. I was a running back and defensive back for the Moapa Valley Pirates back in the 60s. And in 1966, we went to Yerington for the state championship game. We were supposed to run into the Lions' den, according to the RJ.
Yes, Gary Hickman. I played on that state championship football team. We played Yerington. I think we were the underdogs, not supposed to win, and it was exciting when you're that age to go into a state championship game like that.
I think one of the things I remember about the team is that it took a while for us to figure out that we really had quite a bit of talent on our team, and we had pretty good speed, even though we weren't very big. We had some good quickness and had some good athletes, kids that went on and excelled in other sports, not only football but basketball and track and field, and the athleticism of our team became evident as the year went on, and of course into our senior year we felt like we just really had one of the best team of athletes. Guys like Elwin Whipple and Jesus Tellis, Gary Hickman, Dennis Humes. These guys were not only football stars, but basketball and were excellent in track. So I think we had just a lot of really good players.
We were, the thing about Moapa Valley that is even true today is that you have so many of these teams that we had played together all kinds of sports all the way from first grade to high school to 12th grade. So we had played together and been together all of our lives to that point. And when we got up there prior to that year and during the year, we knew we had a good team. We had we had probably one of the best backfields in the state with Nick Bowler quarterback and Elwin Whipple and Jesus as halfbacks. And these were not only two halfbacks, but these were the two top sprinters in the state. And they were fast, and our fullback, we had Mike Harris for a while. We had Stan Hutchings. We had a few fullbacks that were really strong. We had some defensive backs, just like Dennis Humes was probably one of the better defensive backs in the state. We just had some positions that we had some really good players. I remember John Rice, Dwayne Scocco, John Lyons. These linemen we have, they weren't necessarily big boys, but they were strong and tenacious, and we did well. Yerington had a real big line, and we did well against them. We did fine against them.
Was the thing about the team that's coming up, 66 and 67, those years, those kids were really smart. Those kids were very intelligent. And if you told them something about, we can maybe have an advantage doing this or doing that, they picked right up on it, and they knew. And you didn't have to do a lot of coaching with those kids. They were smart enough to understand the game and play the game, and that makes coaching a lot easier.
And the seniors that year were, they were really good kids, and they worked hard. And I think Kim Anderson and Kent Lyon were our captains, and I hope that maybe one or two of them will make a comment or two about this game. But
Yeah, we had some seniors that were coming back from that were juniors the year they lost. I go ahead and refer to we had Kent Lyon and Kim Anderson were two good athletes. And then we had a kid named John Salas. And we had Bobby Lewis and Dennis Polster were seniors. And Darrell Whitney. So we had some good athletes coming back. They were good, solid athletes.
that senior class ahead of us had the reputation. They had been called the Light Blue 11 as they had come up through the ranks, as we were really only one team. We didn't have really a JV team. It was all one big team. And the younger kids always got the older uniforms. And in the years past, the school had bought some Columbia blue colored uniforms and didn't have enough of the regular uniforms. And so those kids, when they were freshmen, and they were given these light blue.
Moapa Pirate lore, there is a team called the Light Blue 11, and this was the class of 1967, the seniors of the state championship game of 1966. The Light Blue 11 was the team that would come into a game. They would all come in together. They didn't have the same color of jerseys that the starters had, and each one of them had on a light blue jersey. And they were a crowd favorite. When the Light Blue 11 came in to the game, the fans started cheering.
We had several good football teams at Moapa Valley High School playing for state titles, and in fact, my sophomore year, my brother was a senior, and they played Winnemucca for the state title, and they didn't get it done. I think it was 28-6. They lost the previous year, and so we lost a lot of seniors. And so the year I was a junior, we were actually picked to take last place in the Southern Division, and we had some good returning players, but we were not expected to win anything at all. And so we were just going to do what we could.
Well, as they become seniors, they were definitely the underdogs. And during the season, they had a 1-3 non-conference record, losing to Dixie, Hurricane, and Cedar City, beating the Western JV team. When they got into conference play, though, they started to mature and find their way and won the conference championship, qualifying for state.
I'm looking here, we had four teams in the Southern A League. We had Wells, we had Tonopah, Redford Valley, and Lincoln County that I remember were in our league. And then we played another team, Western JVs. That was not a league game, that was just a filler game. Then we had 3 Utah teams that we played that year as juniors.
A few things I remember about the 66 season is we started on the road up at Dixie High School playing in the old Sun Bowl. And it was our first start for a lot of the team. A lot of us juniors were starting and had some seniors. And anyway, we went up there and got beat 29-13. And I remember just how scary it was to start a varsity football game. And we came home and we beat Western JV pretty good. And then we went on the road to Tonopah and beat them. I remember the Tonopah game. Back then, Tonopah's field had no grass. It was just a gravel field, and I remember during that game you'd get tackled or get your face down in the dirt, and you'd have to take your helmet off and get all the rocks out of it. I think all the guys will remember playing in Tonopah on their dirt field.
You'll never forget it because there wasn't a blade of grass in the whole town. And the football field was just dirt, rocks, and glass. We always everybody remembers the green and the different colors of glass that were on the football field. And I'm sure they tried to police it a little bit, but you could walk out there and still find that stuff. But it was dirt, just gravel, not gravel as much as dirt. And when you're playing football and you don't once you get into the game, you don't pay a lot of attention to it, other than I'm sure there were specific times when you didn't want to go down on it hard.
And Tonopah threw a pass out there in the flat, and the kid caught it, and then he came right up and took it right out of his hands. I mean, he stole it, and right in stride, and he went right down the sideline for a touchdown.
Cedar City at home, and got beat 13-12, really close game. And I remember trying to score an extra point twice on a quarterback sneak that would have tied the game and got stopped. The first time there was a penalty, so we got to try it again and had a yard to go, and still couldn't get in, and I remember that. I just felt really bad.
So anyway, we're going to play Wells on a Saturday, and so Coach Bushman feels like, hey, we got a fair shot. We might play in the state championship here. So he says, I'm going to send you up, and you're going to scout. And I'm going to send you up. We're going to fly you to Reno. You're going to get some kind of a ride, and you're going to go over to Yerington and scout the game on Friday night. And so he sent me with the old 16mm camera, and here I am, not knowing much about the state. Anyway, I fly into Reno. I can't remember how I got to Yerington, but I get up in their press box on Friday night. And in those days, you're supposed to have permission to scout. It's not like, nowadays where you can share films. You just don't do that. And I'm up there thinking, hey, somebody's going to come up here and ask me what I'm doing. And anyway, I made it through the night, scouted, got a film on Yerington, and then went to some divey motel. I better not say that. They're in Yerington. Next day, I get up, and then I get over to Wells somehow. I'm sure I didn't have a school car. I don't know how I did this. I can't even remember. But anyway, I get to Wells just in time to meet our guys coming up to play the game. So we're playing it Saturday in Wells, and I've been on the road scouting, and that's how it kind of was in those days. You just had to do what you had to do, but at least we had a film. And in those days, you didn't exchange films. You couldn't hardly get films. So you had to either go film yourself and you're supposed to get permission, or, you just had to call other coaches. So it was much, much different. But I'll never forget that trip. Young guy, just, where am I going here? Yerington, some of these places I'd never been. Here I'm now going over to Wells. What a time.
And the second to last game, we played Hurricane and got beat by Hurricane. So we'd lost all three Utah teams, and we finished up the year beating Virgin Valley 19-6, and that qualified us for the state game. But the most memorable league game during that year, several of us, Elwin, myself, and a few others, Arland, a few others, had gone to Kansas City for the national FFA convention, and had been gone all week. And that Friday we were to travel to Lincoln County and play them. And I remember flying home on Thursday. We hadn't practiced all week. We went up to the game, and Lincoln had a pretty good team that year. Anyways, the game was real close, and I think we won the game 20-13. And I remember one particular play near the end of the game. I threw an interception, and Lincoln ran it back for a touchdown. But in the process, I had gotten clipped as I tried to make the tackle. I don't think I'd have made the tackle anyway, but the guy, one of the Lincoln players, hit me in the back, and they called a penalty and called the touchdown back. And so after the game, I remember the fans coming onto the field, and I was standing right there next to the referees as they was getting ready to walk off the field, and one of the Lincoln fans just punched him right in the nose and bloodied his nose, the head referee. And as we got to the bus, the fans were still upset, and they threw rocks at the bus, breaking windows. We had a rented LTR bus. We didn't change or get dressed. We just had to get out of town. And kind of just, so we're kind of lucky to win that game, which gave us the league championship. But those are memories of the 1966 season during the year.
Always brawls in the street. The gymnasium was on one side of the street, and the football field, on the street, I'm talking like 20 feet, 30 feet. So you would go from the gymnasium and locker rooms across the street to the football field. And there was quite often fights and brawls in the street. usually after, because we never got beat that I can remember. Most of the time we were really doing the beating, and so they weren't real happy campers when we got all done. And so crossing the street back over was it was always a crapshoot. You know, you wanted to do it quickly, or if you wanted to get inside the brawl, you did it slowly. I'll never forget, we had this one football player. His name was Refugio Revocava. He was a Hispanic kid, and he was stocky and built. He was really strong. Was a real good lineman for us. And this one time there was a brawl on the street, and I remember him running into the middle of this brawl and come flying back out, hitting the ground. It was really funny. And he got up and he'd run back into the brawl again and come flying back out.
We're there at, I don't know, 5-3 or something like that. And we went up to play Yerington and they hadn't been beaten. And they were a really good team that was undefeated. And
Turns out Yerington was favored to win. I remember the newspapers, not giving us much of a chance to go up there and win that game. So, in fact, most of us didn't even know where Yerington was.
You were a big underdog going up to Yerington. As a local sports announcer on then Channel 13 was quoted as saying, "It is a waste of the taxpayers' money to send the Moapa Valley Pirates up to play the Yerington Lions."
Yerington was a really good team, the northern team, and they were going to host the state game. And the only thing we knew about Yerington, they were undefeated and had one tie. They had tied Fallon, which is a much bigger school that year. And so, and they were huge. Their line, the fact their whole team outweighed our team 15 pounds per man. That was the big write-up, is that they were such a huge team and were very heavy favorite, very heavy favorite to win the game.
As you watch the film, as I watched the film is not of high quality as far as getting the flow of the game. I think some of the film is taped together wrong, the reels. Back then it was the reels, I think it was, what do they call it, Super 8 or whatever. But anyway, they taped the reels together. When you run out, pull one out, and then they tape them together. I think they were taped together wrong, because you really can't get a real good look at how the game unfolded. But did introduce the starting players, and we ran in from the one end zone, and I remember them introducing me, and I was 120 pounds. I could have sworn they laughed, the Yerington side. And I remember that how small I was. That's a memory I have of the game. That kind of set me going a little bit. So
I remember when the game started, we kicked off and were on defense, and about the third play, Yerington was mostly a running team and had, like I say, big running backs, big line. And we had held them pretty good, and they went to throw a pass, and Roger Bushman on his defensive end had gone and hit the quarterback just as he threw it. And so I was playing linebacker, and I think that was maybe the only interception I had all year long. But anyway, the ball just kind of floated in the air, and it came to me, and I caught it and was able to run it back for a touchdown. I remembered how out of breath I was just running that 45, 50 yards for the touchdown. As a quarterback, I didn't run hardly at all. And I just remember how out of breath I was. I think I tried the extra point and didn't get it over the line of scrimmage. I was still out of breath. But anyway, we took an early lead, and that play actually was the only really good thing that happened in the first half.
Early on in the game, I remember I wasn't the fastest guy, but I do remember one time getting to the quarterback and rushing him, and he threw a pass kind of wild, and Nick Bowler picked it off and ran it back for a touchdown. And that was a play that made me feel really good because I'd caused the rush on the quarterback.
Halftime, we were down, and I have this weird memory of we were talking. The coaches were talking about some adjustments we could make and some things we could do, and then right at the end of the halftime talk, Coach Bushman brought out this box of candy bars. Nestle's, I think they were Hershey's almond bars, and gave us all a chocolate bar for halftime. And I said, hey, that's cool. I kind of jazzed up on that. I don't know why, but I remember that. And I thought that was pretty cool. That we get some energy bar going.
To my dad's credit, he changed things up at halftime and said, we're gonna go out and we can't out physical them. We're gonna use our speed, and we're gonna start passing and doing reverses and sweeps, and I think we'll have better success. And
I was telling Dallas that back then, as quarterback, I called all the plays. The coaches did not send in plays from the sideline. And so all season long, I'd been calling plays throughout all the games. And anyway, it came time for the second half, and we hadn't been very effective in running the ball much. And I remember Johnny Solis, the fullback, came in from the sideline after the kickoff, and he says, "Coach says to pass every play." Now that was an amazing thing to hear, and so I, of course, as quarterback, I loved that.
At the state championship game, the Yerington fans were passing around collection cups because they said they were going to send the state champions on a trip to California once the game was over. Of course, figuring that was going to be Yerington.
We could hear the announcer in the Yerington side announcing that they were having a fundraiser where they would send the state champion football team to San Francisco to watch a 49er football game, and they were passing a donation plate around through the stands there on the Yerington side that they were going to collect enough money that they could send these state champions to San Francisco to watch a 49er game. After we had won the game, we always wondered when we were going to have that trip to San Francisco to watch the game. It never materialized for us.
This is Dad. I think he even put money in the hat, and was pretty cool. I mean, he was taunting some of them over there, but yeah, they were confident.
We finally, in the second half, was able to get down to the goal line again, and this time we were able to punch it in. Remember particularly the extra point play. Back in '66, you got the same score for extra points whether you ran or whether you kicked or passed. It was all 1 point. There was no 2-point conversion then. And so whether you kicked it or whether you ran it, the ball was at the 2-yard line, and you could decide if you were going to do a running play or if you're going to try to kick. It was 1 point. So we needed the extra point to tie the game. I remember we called a pass play, and as I rolled out, I saw Gary Hickman at the back of the end zone. He was open, and as I threw the ball, the Yerington defensive end came and had his hands up, and he hit the ball, and it batted it right back into my hands. I was about 3 or 4 yards away, and I caught the ball again after he had blocked it, and I saw Gary. He was still open. I threw it again, and he caught the pass. And I remember the officials huddling for 3 or 4 minutes, deciding whether that was a legal play. Anyway, they ended up calling it a good play, and we tied the game at 13-13.
After we had scored a touchdown, we went to the T-quick pass, which is just that both ends would kind of cross really short, and Nick would just rear up and hit one of us on a slant, just a couple, both of us slanting. And as he rose up, he looked at me and was going to pass to me, and big lineman batted the ball, and it went right back to Nick, and he caught it, and then he threw it to me again.
Remember an extra point because it was Roger Bushman, my buddy, did a interview on this, but there was a play that I noticed in the game where it was an extra point, and Nick threw the ball to our tight end in the middle, and the ball was knocked back to him, and he caught it, threw it again, and Roger caught it for the extra point. I don't think today that would be allowed, but we had 2 forward passes on the same play. But that was kind of an indicator of the game was going our way.
And I remember the officials huddling for 3 or 4 minutes, deciding whether that was a legal play. Anyway, they ended up calling it a good play, and we tied the game at 13-13.
remember a touchdown punt return by Jesus Tellez.
I ran back a punt return for 75 yards in the fourth quarter to ice the game.
Jesus Tellez ran a punt return back for a touchdown. That was about 60 yards, went just kind of untouched, and ran our reverse, which Coach Bushman had brought in, the old reverse on the punt and kickoffs, and it worked this game, broke the game as far as getting the lead, and Jesus scored on the punt return. And that really kind of gave us the confidence we needed. And I'll always remember that play. That was an amazing play. And Jesus was just a great punt returner. Him and Dennis Humes, I think, pretty much did all the punt returning for us all year long, and did really good that way.
Elwin, on the last touchdown we scored, Elwin took a power sweep and went around the right side, and then he did a cut, came back left, and there's no one that could stay with him. So he scored the last touchdown, I believe. I think
that was running a sweep around one end, and we were downfield blocking, and it was just perfect. He cut back just at the right time, and we were able to mow down a couple of guys, and he made a big long gain. I just remember I was always envious of the speed of Elwin and Jesus and Dennis and the guys that were so fast. Because Nick and I were always racing to see who would be last place in the sprints. You know, I mean, we were.
Whipple was an all-around athlete. He had some speed. He wasn't really big. He was probably 155, maybe 160 pounds. But he ran the tailback, and he was a really good football player. He was a great basketball player for me. He played guard line for me in basketball. He was a track performer. He ran the sprints, and Elwin was quick in the tailback slot and running the single wing or the T. And so Elwin was a great player for us. Yeah.
Our final score was a power sweep, Elwin Whipple. Elwin Whipple's not with us. We sure miss him, but he was a great athlete. Was fast. Jesus and Elwin, their senior year in track, I mean, they won the 100-yard dash and the 200, and were really great athletes. And I remember pitching the ball to Elwin, and I would go on out and try to block, and the lineman would get downfield and Elwin just kind of swept around the right end and then made a cutback and all the blocks were there and he just kind of went untouched for a touchdown, making that score 26-13, which was the final score. And we just kind of ran it out after that.
One went to over there and he did some coaching up, if you can believe it. He coached in Lund, and he started up there, and he was in the FFA program, and he went to Lund and got into coaching and did a great job. And then he came to Mesquite and he did a great coaching with the girls basketball team. He won a number of state championships coaching the girls. He married a local Moapa Valley girl, Jean Waymeyer, who was a cheerleader here. And so here we got Elwin, one of our stars, taking a Moapa Valley cheerleader and going to Mesquite, if you can believe that.
But it was a great game. You know, we didn't film the game. We didn't have filmers back then. We didn't have, the camera wasn't working, and so as we got this game film, it was actually filmed by Yerington on an 8mm camera, and we ended up requesting a copy of the film after we found out that they had this film, that Yerington had the film, and that's how we finally got it to have a copy of the game.
That was a great game, and it was so sweet because it was so unexpected. You know, the next year we went undefeated, but everybody expected us to. You know, so each victory wasn't nearly as sweet as that one was.
There was a lot of celebration. Yeah, there were some, like I keep mentioning Bobby Lewis's dad and Paul Lewis, Dennis Pultzfer's dad. They were all up there from Moapa, and they were pretty excited for their boys. They were seniors, and it was a good celebration. Yeah, I don't know if it really sunk in as much as it has today, what it meant, but what it meant for our coaches, for Coach Bushman, especially, you know, as head coach going all those years. I remember as a kid watching them, you know, 8th, 9th, 10th grade, you know, how they would lose. Winnemucca seemed to be the team that would come down here, or we'd go up there and they'd beat us for the state title. But this got us over a hump. Seemed like it got us over a hump a little bit.
The Pirates were led by the Light Blue 11, a strong class of juniors, and several sophomores that were able to help out. There were starters from the sophomore class, junior class, and senior class. Together they attained their goal of being the state champs.
It was a lot of fun, and like I said, we started this back in 4th, 5th, 6th grade when athletics started being more of a part of our lives, and there was a pretty good bunch of us that we stuck together, and we just by the time we hit that. Those last 2 years of high school, we'd been together for a good 10 years or more, and we played well together. There was a lot of contributors.
Yeah, I look back on it, it just seems to me like it was a well-knit group who worked hard together. There weren't a lot of individuals that I'd seen with the previous teams. I think we had a real togetherness that was really good for that group.
One of the things I remember about after winning the championship game, one of the dads, Paul Lewis, his son Robert Lewis, played on the team, was a guard on the line, and of course as they were figuring out that we were going to win, or we might win in the stands. Of course, we didn't know as players all that was going on, but he had said that if the Pirates pulled this out and won the state championship, that he would he'd kill a cow and we'd have a big barbecue. And I remember that he did that. They pit barbecued a beef, and we had a big celebration and party one evening celebrating the state championship football game over Yerington.
It was a hard-hitting game. They outweighed us 14 pounds at the line and 9 pounds in the backfield. It was a great season, and I was proud to be a Pirate. Thanks.
The Light Blue 11 ushered in a new era in Moapa Valley football history, as they had the first state championship of the 1960s, followed up by 2 more, giving the Pirates 3 state championships in a row. Never done before and hasn't been done since. Hats off to the Light Blue 11.